Hi everyone, welcome to today's event. We have been the last few days. We have been planning this 9 day series of women speakers to celebrate the 9 day Navaratri festival. So today is day four. We've had a great 3 days so far. Day one we did observability. Day two was platform, and day three was a very technical deep dive into policies, admissions, and a security system for Kubernetes. Today is going to be about CI/CD, and Bhavani is going to take us through her talk. Without any further delay, I will hand off to her, and you can take it away.
Thank you so much everyone for joining us. Let me share my screen. Okay. So you can be able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Uh, I think I okay. Yeah, I think I can't see this, but that's fine. Let me just looking. Today we are going to discuss about building the cloud native CI/CD. So there are in the cloud native ecosystem, we have so many tools, so many projects which are specific to like orchestration, security side, and application side. So there's so many applications, and projects that they available in cloud native landscape. But so today, I'm going to, with my experience with the tools that I have been using, I'm going to focus on, Jenkins, Harbor, Argo CD, and then Kubernetes. How the pipeline that we can make it to continuously integrate with the application code and deploy directly into the production system. So coming to me, I'm working as a senior DevOps engineer at Zscaler. Also, I'm the organizer for the Suman in Cloud Native meetups, and also I'm a CNCF ambassador. So which means like I've been involved in Cloud Native Computing Foundation, if, community, and been organizing things through Min in CNCF. So I also participate in various local meetups, and mostly with CNCF Hyderabad meetups, and I've delivered few talks there. Um, it's more of like involved in cloud native side of things, and I'm a Kubernetes certified administrator, and I do write the blogs on latest CNCF projects and all of that. So you can follow me over Twitter and LinkedIn. So these handles. So yeah, that's all about me. Coming to today's discussion, so I'm going to explain about like what is a brief introduction about what is a cloud native approach, and the what is continuous integration and continuous delivery. And I'm going to talk about Jenkins, Harbor, Argo CD, and a kind of introductory demo with Argo CD, and how these three integrates together. So continuous integration, I mean, these words are being very very much widely used in DevOps world. So continuous integration is something like, think about this way. Previously, so before all of this, developer develops things, and he has to locally build the application, locally package it, maybe sign it, and then uh, give this complete package to another team, and they are going to deploy this in, they have to set up the environment and where they deploy. So this process itself takes a lot of time. So I remember my initial days of my career where, so for doing a release, it has to be several hours, right? So to do this manual steps and deploying things in the production for the customer. So with the continuous integration, so what it means is that, for example, whenever a developer made some code changes, it will trigger an automatic build in Jenkins, where it went through, building that application and so deploying those artifacts to the, artifactories, or like whether it's Nexus Artifactory or JFrog or like Harbor in our case. And then when it went through some test cases, and it will build an artifact and deploy that. So that deployment comes with a continuous deployment. But the continuous integration is something that for every commit that you made, there is this series of stages that runs, and it will finally, tells you, like, so the whatever the new code that you have introduced doesn't cause any issue with the existing thing, and it works as expected, and it went through all the test cases, and it is in a stable condition to be put into the production. So that's what the continuous integration means. That means, like, you don't have to manually build, do things. It's all happens, like, whenever you do some changes in GitHub, it will automatically happen, and it will run through different stages. So next thing, continuous delivery is something, so in which, like, what are the code changes that you have put in. So there are multiple environments, like, for example, staging, dev, sit environment, and QA environment. So you can deliver continuously, to those different environments. So, and there is a bit difference with the continuous deployment. So where you can think of, so once the user made some code change, it will go through all the CI process, and it will also deploy that to production. So there is no user intervention in between and doing manual things. It all, whatever the change that you have made, it will went to and sit into the production environment. So that's what the continuous deployment means. So I will explain about the characteristics of cloud native DevOps. So I think most of the organization now following it's like GitOps. So what is GitOps in the sense, like, whatever you write, whether it's infrastructure as code or your application code, everything is in a Git repository. Everything is in a code format. Not, for example, you're doing something, you're creating an instance in AWS. So you're not doing that through a UI, like, I'm creating this instance, I'm creating this security group, I'm creating this network policy. Like, so whatever that you're doing, everything is in code, like Terraform that we use, right? So GitOps is something, even the application code along with the infrastructure code, configuration as code, everything is into a Git format and the code format. So that will go through this entire CI/CD, pipeline based. So that we call as GitOps. And so we have two things here, like in the GitOps era, like we have so we have two repositories. One is for application source code, other is for infrastructure and configuration code. So you can think of, like, so I'll explain in future slides, but so for example, you made some change with the application code, and it automatically triggers the CI pipeline, and that CI pipeline will change. So it builds an image, Docker image, and and it went through some tests, and finally it passes everything, and it went and update your configuration repository, for example, Kubernetes manifest repository, with the new image version. From there, Argo CD will, Argo CD will know, like, so there is some change in this Kubernetes manifest file, so that it will automatically pull those changes and deploy the application in the production environment. So that's the complete, GitOps way of CI/CD pipeline. And we have a centralized DevOps tooling. So mostly right now, I think all the organizations are almost, they're doing, container based deployments, container based developments. Everything is like a Docker image and their application. So you can so for example, if whatever the new tool that you will be seeing, a Helm chart for that image, for that application, they'll provide a Helm chart so that you can deploy that application and use that. So it's all about container based deployments right now, and you can definitely reuse them. and more of automation, and so request mergers and deploys. So when the CI is done and it's all verified, so once that PR, whatever that gets raised, and once that gets merged, and you will see the CD is getting triggered. So security is something that is very important, to make sure that um, I would say, like, so whatever that you're deploying to production, it should be, very secured product. It's not that something you deploy in production that gives a very, what I would like to say is, like, something you deploy in production that is giving an opportunity hacker to hack easily your system and steal some information, that will cause a lot of noise, that will cause a lot of issues with your reputation of the company. So testing and the security is very important, so that you, in the pipeline itself, in various levels, like, you have to include the security stages, like SAST or DAST, and also the container, vulnerability scans, and you just make sure, consider everything to be, like a security gates you have to put. And if something is not matching the expectations, or something is security threat, you'll be stop what you'll be doing is, like, you stop that thing from there itself, and you fail the build, and so that the developer will get back and fix those things, and again make sure that you're deploying a secure product in the production. So that's those are the main cloud native DevOps characteristics. And you can see there are so many, DevOps is kind of a thing, like, where it's not like specific to that I'll be using the single language. No, there are so many ways, like build tools where your application is getting built, and continuous integration tools. We have multiple tools like Jenkins, GitHub Actions, GitLab, infrastructure, Terraform, even Crossplane also infrastructure you can do. And monitoring side, Prometheus, Grafana. Now I'm seeing a lot of Victoria metrics, container orchestration. Definitely Kubernetes is kind of a king in that era, that space. And the security side, we have so many things. And we have, like, you can see, so many tools. You can see Jenkins, Argo CD, Nexus, Artifactory, Harbor. So even the landscape, if you see, right, so there are so many projects, like, which each project, resolves one problem, and it gives a solution, and that helps you to go through and build your pipeline and make the release very smooth. So so you can see the CI/CD progress process here. For example, the developers develops the code in IDE, and so they push the code to the Git, and then so they are going to build using a Jenkins. And for example, you can deploy using Argo CD, and there are some other tools like Tecton, Flux CD. Similar to Flux CD is kind of an Argo CD. Both of them, solve the same similar kind of purpose. And storing, so your images in Harbor. It's a cloud native side of projects, they are displaying here. And we have multiple security related things. And so Kubernetes. And so there are different types of projects. And finally, for monitoring, Prometheus, VND, so, and Victoria metric. So this is how you completely, make your CI/CD process from the place, like, where developer develops the code and deploy that to the production. So with that, I'll be talking about, like, Jenkins. It's from CD Foundation, and it's an open source tool. So where you can just install that application, and whatever the plugins. There's so many plugins that they offer. Like, you'll be installing them. It's mostly the pipelines. Like, you check out the code from Git, and then build something. Build your application from there, and you push those artifacts to a registry. And so you can even integrate Argo CD. You can directly run Argo CD commands from the Jenkins, and you integrate it if you want to do it. Otherwise, if you just build an image and changes through your pipeline in the configuration code, manifest repository, it will Argo CD will automatically pull those changes and deploy the things. There are, like, two sides. So Jenkins is where you are going to build a complete CI pipeline, and Argo CD is where it will deploy things in production. And Harbor is kind of a place, I'll be explaining in the next slide. It's like kind of, you can think of like Artifactory, Nexus Artifactory, and so where you're going to store your images, and so you can just pull those images and internal to your, or just kind of a Docker Hub you can think of. So this is just, I'm just showing a picture of how Jenkins is. I know you're mostly familiar with all of this environment, so just I'm just showing like how the pipeline from building and scans and publishing things and deploying things and running various tests and all of that. So coming to Harbor. So, as I already told, it's an open source registry, and it has a lot of other features like making sure the images are scanned and with no vulnerability to show those vulnerable information as well, and making sure the images are signed, and so these are coming from a source to, and secured sources. So that's what Harbor do. It's a kind of a storage where place where you're going to store your images. So you can see how Harbor looks like this, where you'll be just pushing your images there, similar to Docker Hub, like how you see all the images will be there. So that's what some information about Harbor. And yeah, I think so far, one second, so far like I uh, so far this is so I'll answer all the questions at the end. uh, so I'll answer all the questions at the end, so that I'll be now go back to the my presentation. Sorry, I have a single screen, so I was not able to look at this screen and that one right now. So one second, I'll be going back to my keynote. Yeah. Okay. So far we discussed about the importance of CI/CD, and like how the complete CI/CD process will move from developing the code to deploying to the production. And so we had some discussion about Jenkins, Harbor, and now I'll be mostly focusing on the next part of thing, like Argo CD, how so we handle deploying things into the production, right? So you can see here, like, so GitOps is kind of an extension of infrastructure as code that use Git as the version control system. So so far, like in our previous days, we just have used to have application code in Git, and where we build, deploy, and use different like Ansible, everything. But now everything like Ansible as a configuration code, Git, everything is in Git. So whatever that you're doing to make the product release to the production, so everything is in Git. That what GitOps meant to be. So from the Git repository, whatever the changes you made, it will again called by CI pipeline, and then it went through the CD and it deploys to the cluster. So you can see here in the down, so the commit. So different whatever the commits that you push, and that's what I mean, like it will trigger a CI pipeline. And so once that CI is build is good, someone will review and approve your pull request. And once it gets merged, then the CD pipeline will get triggered, and it deploys the things in the your production Kubernetes cluster. So once you merge, and how do this the CD works, and how do it knows is like Argo CD will so when we create a repository in Argo CD, it will keep on pulling for that repository. If there are any changes, it will automatically syncs that your changes in your code base to the production cluster. This is not something we are telling the Argo CD to put into the production. This is something Argo CD automatically knows when there is a change made in your manifest repository or configuration infra code repository, and it will automatically put those changes into production. So this is like another way, like from instead of we are telling it, Argo CD automatically do that for us. So yeah, so this is just another good image where it will tell, like, so how unit tests artifacts image and push to the registry. So and you're going to update this Kubernetes manifest repository with the new version. For example, consider you have built an access image, so and where there are some changes so in your code, and so it runs through test cases, and it build an artifact and it build an image out of it, and now you have a new tag to your Nexus image, Nexus application with, for example, a 1.0, and that tag and that image gets pushed to the registry in. So I'm considering here as an arbor, and from that, whatever the image and the tags, that information your CI pipeline itself will update in the Kubernetes manifest repository, so that this production application has to point to this tag of an image. And since this Argo CD is in place for that repository, it will automatically pull those changes and making sure it syncs with the whatever the code that is there in your Git repository in your production cluster. So that we call it as like the actual state of a cluster. And so the desired state is something which is there in a code, and GitHub will make sure so the desired state has been deployed in your actual state of the cluster. So yeah, so coming to Argo CD is completely declarative, and it is GitOps continuous delivery tool for Kubernetes. So it is implemented as a Kubernetes controller which continuously monitors those applications and compare with the current state. So the live state of the cluster against the desired state, and making sure the desired state is applied in your Kubernetes cluster. So that's what I mean to how Argo will react to it. And the architecture is something is like, so you have a PR, so there is an so you'll be approving it, and then so what Argo CD will do is it. So there are two ways, three ways I think you can trigger an Argo CD, to sync whatever the changes that you made into the production. So one is so every 3 minutes, Argo CD will look for the changes in that repository and update the your cluster state with the desired state. But if you want to do it, so you don't want to wait 3 minutes, 3 long minutes to change your cluster state. So then you can define a webhook in GitHub. So to so with a with this Argo CD, so it will automatically, so whenever there is a change in Git, so there's no waiting period, and it will by default, so within that spot itself, it will be known by the Argo CD, and it will sync those changes with your target cluster. Or else if from Jenkins also, as I tell, like, so we have an Argo CD CLI as well. So from Jenkins also you can integrate and trigger the Argo CD to sync the changes to the production. So that's what it is being explained here. And the beauty of Argo CD is you can deploy things. It's a multi-cluster deployment. It's not that so the cluster where you have deployed Argo CD, that I'm doing only that. No. So for example, I have three clusters: Dev, QA, and Prod cluster. I have my Argo CD present in Dev cluster. So fr- from the Dev cluster, you can deploy. Sorry, from the Dev cluster, you can deploy it to the QA cluster and the staging cluster, production cluster. So it's not that Argo CD should be there for in all the cluster that you have. So one cluster, if you just deploy it, it can handle multi-cluster deployments. Yeah, that's what I have right now. So I'll be showing you some demo. Feel free to ask me if you have any questions. So yeah, I'll be moving forward with the demo right now. Okay. So I have Argo CD installed on my system. You can see, 1 second, Argo CD. So you can see here, right? If you want to get started with Argo CD, there are like Argo CD documentation plays where you'll be learning everything, and you can see like how you can do multiple things. So I have my Kubernetes cluster. So since it's my local system, I have a Docker desktop with Kubernetes running on my local, and I already have deployed Argo CD using these actually. So I just created a namespace, and I just deployed the Argo CD, this custom resource definitions, and so after this, you can see. So I can show you like what it gets deployed. So so right now, I think in default main space I don't have any resources, but you can see Argo CD. So you can see different things got created, application controller, Argo CD server. So these are different components of Argo CD. So after I installed with those comments, all these gets added as pods in my Kubernetes cluster. So now, so I have Argo CD installed on my system. So I need to be able to see the UI, right? So I'm usually, since it's just a local setup for the demo, so I'm just using port forwarding my service Argo CD server with this port. And if I just open localhost, see, I think I already logged in, so I have one application created. So I'll do one thing. I'll so for now, I'll recreate this. Uh, So yeah, so you can see right now we don't have any application. I'll go through, I'll show you the UI of this. So here is where we have different applications that we get created, and you can see the repositories. You can connect to the repositories from here directly, and you can have clusters. So this is because I'm running this Argo CD, and I'm right now only having one cluster. You can see this is my default single cluster. For example, if you want to add more clusters to it, you can just add more clusters here, and you can see, for example, prod cluster. So you can add the clusters here, and you can create different projects, and so users, accounts, and all of that from this section. So far, I will what I will do is I'll create an application, GitHub. So this so there is one so right now I'll be doing some simple apps deployment here. So here we have a deployment .yaml. So this is some simple web server application, and you can see, I'm just creating this service YAML to be able to access it through a node port 31,000 actually. So I have this application. So what I will do is I'll just create a new application. So I'll do Argo CD demo, and the project default sync is like automatic. So sync means like it is like so for example, if it's manual, you have to sync it manually to be able to reflect your application data into the production system. So auto create namespace, I'm just putting this the repository URL, like whatever that I have, so copying that, and then I'm just sorry putting it here. So yeah, revision head path. So here my application path is simple app. So I'm just giving that information here. This is simple app. So cluster is my right now the default cluster namespace. I'm giving it as a demo namespace, and that's all. I'm just clicking on create, and you can see it is saying like missing out of sync because we have enabled automatic sync. So you can see this is the application, and this is so it is showing both of them got deployed in your production cluster service and the deployment. So you can see I didn't do anything in my Kubernetes cluster to deploy this. Now, if I go back to the terminal and if I so just do kubectl get pods -n demo, I think I've created. Yeah, you can see this application is running, right? And this is listening at 31,000 port in my local system node port. And you can see, this is my IP, 192. This is my Mac IP, and I'm giving that port. And you can see this application web server is listening here, and you can see, right? So this my application got deployed. So this is how Argo CD. So you have, I'm just showing you for the demo purposes like UI for the time being, but you have Argo CD CLI where you can create projects and deploy things. And so there is another way, for example, just like how you have Kubernetes YAMLs, Argo CD has the declarative format where you can create an application through, again, kind of YAML file, and you just apply it. It will automatically create an application and deploy things. So right now, like whatever that I have showed here, so here I have manually created it. But if I have this set in settings and repositories getting added here, so what it will do is, so you have this, for this repo you have this application, right? So whenever there is a change in my repo, for example, let me do some change here. So in my repository here, right? So this is inside simple app, and I have this deployment.yaml. So I'll just do one thing. I'll just edit this file and put this version as 1.0. Commit changes. Yeah. So I just did the change here, and you can see here like so applications. And so you can see, sorry, I think it got synced already. So I just clicked on refresh by mistake, and you can see all this gets deployed directly. So I made the change there, and it gets synced automatically. And you can see, so there is this commit made, so which is like right now, right? So 2037. So I just made a few seconds ago. So it got, so I changed the code in my Git repository, and it automatically pulled those changes. Usually it will wait for 3 minutes. Since I refreshed it, it got synced automatically. But if you have the webhook enabled, it will do it right away. Okay. So it got synced, and you can see, here the another version of it, right? So you can just look at, see, now we are at version 1.0. So that means the GitHubs will, so Argo CD will take the changes from the Git repository, and it will by default like deploy that to your production cluster. So now there is one thing I wanted to show you. I'm not demoing the Jenkins side of it, but there is one pipeline I would like to, show you, so that it seems like I feel this is going to be helpful for you. How you can end to end integrate from Jenkins pipeline to Argo CD. So here you could see, so there is Jenkins pipeline where they're running some unit tests. And so what they're doing, so they are building an age. So here, so they have this planet option. So where, and there is this GitOps Argo CD Jenkins demo. So this is where the deployment.yaml. So they are referring to this planet image, right? So this is the application code repository. You can consider it as. So this is the application code repository, and this is where we have the Kubernetes manifest, thing, right? So here we have Kubernetes deployment, where we are actually using this planet's application and the tag of the Docker image, and yeah, and the service, right? Service.yaml to so make this available through web service, right? So here, like you can see, this is the application code. So where the developer usually, do some changes in the code. And so what the CI pipeline will do is, like whenever there is a change, so it again builds an image, and it will change the, it will create a new tag. So you can see it built the image, and it created a new tag, and it pushed the image to a registry. That's what I mentioned. Like once we build an image of out of your application, pushed to the registry, And again, like what it is doing, it is cloning those. Some there is some other repositories cd, just I'm telling for the sake, like, so what it is doing is, probably I'll just open the test cd repository for you. um, Repositories, test cd. Yeah. So it is referring to this test cd, and it is going to look at this Jenkins demo. So this is actually the Kubernetes manifest. This application code is referring to. It's what it is trying to do is, so far now we have built the image and pushed the Docker image to the Artifactory. Now what, after doing this pipeline, what is it is doing? It is updating the manifest repository with the new image tag. So now what it is doing, it is just committing and pushing this information with the new image tag, and it also created a PR. So what it created, a feature branch, it created a PR. So once that gets reviewed by some developer or someone in the team, and then it gets merged, then Argo CD knows that, because this is what this pipeline also doing, update in this manifest folder. So where you will be updating this deployment YAML, and where the image you are updating. So Argo CD, what it will do, it will know that there is a change, and it deploys that application into the through Argo CD. So because we have this application here, it will deploy that in the Kubernetes cluster. So there is no manual thing here. The pipeline itself builds the image, and pipeline itself updates your manifest repository, Kubernetes manifest repository, with the tag the change that you make through the Docker tag, and Argo CD automatically pulls that changes and putting into the production. So that's what, like, so we are using some Argo CD and Harbor, and so from the monitoring side, I'm not covering much, but we have a lot of monitoring, Prometheus, Grafana, and we have Victoria so many tools, like so we can achieve this goal, like complete end-to-end CI/CD with the cloud native projects right now. And that's what my demo completes with it, and I think I covered a lot of time. But finally, I'm just going to show you CNCF landscape, and you can see it's very big. And you see, so all these projects also different purposes, and so you can choose anything. So the good thing about cloud native side for any DevOps engineer or platform engineer is something. So right now everything is it containerized, and every company is using this Kubernetes, Docker, containerized deployments. So whatever the solutions that comes wraps around this thing is on top on from these application suite, like for the Argo CD, you can find it here from Backstage for good developer experience, and to implement the platform side of things. So you can see, these projects are helpful at every level, so that you can choose what is the best for your organization. And all these are open source, so you can do a lot of things to make your the CI/CD as an amazing thing in your company. Yeah, I think that's all I have. Let me stop my share. Yeah, so I'm just back to the questions. Yeah, landscape is very big.
Thanks for the great talk. I think I had also asked a question earlier.
Okay.
With
So with shift
shift
left,
left,
okay, testing,
sorry,
how
go
do
ahead.
you manage developer workload? What does this exactly mean, Manu?
I've heard some talk that shift left testing might add like so in some cases might add some a bit more to developer workload. Like, do you still have people doing QA separately, or is it more like a developer to write tests or something, things like that? I've heard
Yeah,
some buzz around this in this topic, so
yeah. So I think right now, I'm previously we used to have a separate QA and dev teams, but I'm seeing the recent days. So there is no dev or difference QA. So it's like it's a combined thing, like where one person actually develops and tests, and the process is like everyone in the team, comes with both development and testing mindset, and they just make sure everything is you know it's tested properly. And with the CI/CD, it makes it even more easier, like whatever the new change that they are making, it all pass those tests, and making sure it doesn't cause any issues with the production environment. So yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I know some people find this approach better, and some people are still very old school and they prefer having separate QA and all those things. So, just interesting conversations to have.
Yeah, yeah, that is like there are like two different ways always for one thing, but so I'm seeing, so most of the organizations are shifting towards this common thing, and
Yes,
so
yes.
yeah.
Most of the organizations that my husband and I have been a part of prefer this style more, as they feel like it just makes things flow better.
Yeah. Thank you.
Uh,
Thank you.
do we
Yeah.
have any other questions? Please feel free to use the chat, or you can also unmute yourself and share your thoughts.
Okay. Hi.
So we have a question from Ram. How good or bad is Jenkins for cloud native?
So yeah, so I would say, definitely, some with the Jenkins. So what I have observed is, so it's been really widely used across organizations, when to implement CI part of things, and definitely CD also some part of it. It has a common goals of CI and CD, and yeah, so people are used to it, and so it has a lot of plugins available, so for the integrations and all of that. But one thing which I have observed is we need to make sure, like, so we are on top of the latest version. Like, we do make sure monthly we do update our Jenkins system to make sure that it handles the load, and it handles, with a good performance, and less vulnerabilities, security vulnerabilities, and all of that. So yeah, I think for cloud native side of it, so there are like two things which I have, two different tools. Like right now, I know Tecton is also, in a similar purpose of solving what Jenkins is doing, but I'm not, more into the Tecton. I don't have much knowledge there. So something like Jenkins is something, it's kind of a big open source where, it's been very helpful so far in my career. Yeah. 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 I think, yeah. Thank you, Ram.
Thank you for the great talk, Bhavani.
Yeah, I hope like it was good.
It
Thank
was
you,
great. Yes.
thank you,
Thank you for answering all our questions as well.
thank you. Yeah, I think, yeah, I think we are done with all the questions as well, Malu. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining us, and so we have other talks lined up from tomorrow as well. So it's like Navaratri festival with cloud native. We are doing it, so I hope like you will be joining those sessions as well, and see you all for the upcoming days. And thank you, Malu, for helping me with everything. Yeah,
You're
and
very welcome. Yeah, thank you everyone for joining on a Sunday evening, and thank you especially for taking the time to do the talk today.
yeah, I know like
Hopefully,
we
we
know
have.
Sunday has been a bit tough to people to join, but I saw like people showed up today as well. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.